All right.
I'm ready.
I am so happy that so many of you stayed for the second part. This is kind of where it's gonna like become, yeah, enjoy. So in the timeline right now, I've just had the apparition of like that she represents the Holy Mother Mary of the Seven Flames. This is what she looked like, and everything made sense. Like from the church where she stayed for like 15 years, it was her. Like the forces in charge set everything up, and this kind of became like clear. And then so I I had this apparition of her. This, if a priest says that how this fits in, that this is an intercession, auf Deutsch weiß ich nicht genau, intercession, you know intercession? It's when something else acts on behalf of you. So at this moment in here, the Holy Mother acted on behalf of me by pointing out that this thing is down there. That's kind of, so for me that's just like another kind of, yes, you are the Holy Mother Mary of the Seven Flames. And then I was told, so I had already transferred the magic of the crown with the holy thorns into her, broke it off. That was the basically the queen. The magical powers of the queen got transferred into her. So when King Charles was crowned, I was told to crown her. Like, so I wrote like a whole kind of thing, like 20 pages about like the Holy Mother Mary of the Seven Flames, and that I need to go to Ireland, like to crown her at the same time while King Charles gets crowned. That was the thing. Coronation, Saturday, article finished Thursday evening, no money at all. I'm like, if I've got the money, I'm gonna go asking for like if anyone can. Next morning I had the money in my account to like, and I sat in my van, I drove to Ireland, booked the ferry, missed the ferry. But and then like it was the Saturday, and I'm like, so where am I gonna do the coronation ceremony? Then like, I looked, and the only church that was open was like a few miles away, and it was called the Church of St. Michael and All Angels. Obviously. Yeah. So during the coronation, and it was like in the woods, empty. I carried her in. I carried the 2 oil lamps in to crown her. And so during King Charles's coronation, I called in St. Michael and all the angels. They were with me, and I filmed everything. As I anointed her, I crowned her Holy Mother Mary of the Seven Flames, Queen of all hearts. That's what I crowned her. And I'm like, oh, how beautiful, like that. Back in the days, the whole of England was looking forward to that. Once King Charles gets crowned, Lady Diana will be the Queen of Hearts. And well, it wasn't Lady Di, it was her, the Holy Mother Mary of the Seven Flames. And then I crowned her, and then I took her on a coronation tour through Ireland. So I went through Ireland with her to all those different places of like Holy Mother worship. I showed up with her, and people went like, what's that? And I'm like, she is the Holy Mother Mary of the Seven Flames, and an icon of God. And people got the message. And this is now 3-minute something video of all the different spaces where I had her blessed on her coronation tour. I started in Rock of Cashel.
Back to the van, and this is where my first start. So we play my drum, and like that with the other feet.
I play drums in all of those places. Let's knock. Scotia, Fridays. And I had her blessed by the Irish bishop.
May the saving presence of Christ be in the hearts of those who use them, and in the homes in which they are places. I bless them in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
It's supposed to be the Holy Mother, the Holy Father, and the Holy Son. And he blessed her with the water, and I gave him like the flyer with her story. So like her arrival has been like
Yesterday she was crowned, and this is her crowning tour of Ireland, bringing magic of the crown back to the land.
And I say those things and people actually get it, what I mean.
That's
You have
really
to
good.
carry those flames
That's amazing.
lit all over the country.
I literally drove with those flames lit.
Son and Holy Spirit, come upon me now.
And then I went to, so this is the moment when I crowned her in the church with like the two flames on top. Crowned her with a chariot of fire. And even like she fits in everywhere. So this is like the statue of Bridie in Bridie's monastery in Ireland. And she's got she literally is held by her by two fingers.
Fantastic.
There is like she's
The white side.
just like and then at the very end on Lady Island, like I met a pilgrim, he takes me on a tour around, and I found those two statues, like the Holy Mother in St. John's, like
Okay,
she's obviously got like the other one, Jesus as well. And those two statues, they're pretty much the same size, like the statues in St. John's. And,
so interesting.
mission accomplished. At that moment I had already, so I had lit, I had from in Bridie's monastery, I had the flames lit from the flames of Bridie's. And then I carried those flames in my van back to England, even on the ferry.
Those flames thousands of years old.
Even on the ferry.
Yeah.
Like hid it in my van.
Yeah.
Like some of those, go on very long.
Yeah.
But it's like not often that people actually make the effort to keep them lit while they travel.
Yeah, that's hard.
And especially with these oil lamps, it's quite a mission. And while traveling with a van.
Yeah.
on the ferry, I had to hide it, obviously, because they look in your van.
Do they?
Yeah. So I had to
How long
hide
does
it.
it take on the ferry?
I hid it in my wooden bench
Very
and
clever.
closed the lid
Yeah.
as I drove on the ferry. And then on the ferry, I took it obviously out of the wooden bench again. But I must say, when all the fire alarms went off like an hour into the ride, I did kind of look if there's any smoke coming from the cars, but there wasn't. So
How long does it take to cross from Ireland?
4 or 5 hours.
That was far then.
Yeah. And then we did a ceremony like with the same flames for the 7th gate, and there were probably 14, 15 of us in St. Benedict's Church, consciously like, oh yeah, she is the Holy Mother Mary of the 7 flames, and now we anchor the light of Christ into the planetary grid through music without words, consciously. And then in the recordings, and I lit that with the flames that I've like bonkers. For 50 days I kept those flames lit. Lit like it's been beautiful. And then, so in the recording that you're gonna hear now, there is like, so there's the drumming, and then it's like a dolphin sound that comes in, which like it doesn't fit in with any of the other rhythms, and I'm like, wow, this is what it sounds like. This is what it sounds like when the light of Christ enters the planetary grid. And I'm like, wow. And 2 days after that, this crop circle shows up. You can like see it a little bit already, but now like, so basically this is the drumming, and you can hear the bass and stuff, and it even goes with her movement. That's right on the ley line. This is the ley line. Can you hear that? And then this crop circle shows up. It's got the same kind of everything, like the flipping lamp. It's even got a triskel in the middle. Like all the 3 ripples, the different kind of, it's like, huh? So in my book that made this crop circle a miracle, because it looked like a lamp. The day after, you could hear the like, just like for another recapitulation, those the outer 3 flames, and then the inner 3 flames, and even the triskel in the middle. I'm like, come on, guys. That's
really intriguing.
It's for me that made this crop circle her miracle.
Yeah.
And then I was at the point where, like, because she wanted to, so there's this shop at the Magdalene Chapel, in front of the Magdalene Chapel, right on the Mary line. I know the owner. It was Magdalene's feast day, the 22nd, and I'm like, oh wow, she really wants to be there. Do you think I could like set her up on the Mary line, because on Magdalene's feast day it's like quite a special day? She's like, oh yeah, go on then. That night on the 22nd, the town was full of Mary Magdalenes. And there was one event in the Chalice Well and another event in the Magdalene Chapel right behind that shop. And I told her, like, when I came there, I'm like, she's coming in strong. She wants to be there with a painting, with her, with like everything, all the crystals tonight. And she's like, yay, bring her on. And brought her on, and then, so that night, the only 2 places, like, so there's the Mary line, Chalice Well is on the Mary line, and the Magdalene Chapel is on the Mary line. And Chalice Well got rained off. They had to do it in the United Reformers Church, and the Magdalene Chapel, they couldn't find the key. So she was the only one there. And we did like a whole meditation, listening to the St. Michael's Tower vibration, like as a meditation, just sitting with the whole like woo 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 weedy weedy weedy, and tuning into her energies, bonkers. And then I ended up staying in that shop for 42 days with her like people coming, meditating with the headphones and just like meditating with it. It took it to a whole different level. People having apparitions, while of all the divine kind of different divine feminine kind of white buffalo calf woman, Kuan Yin, you name them, they were all there. And people would like listen to the vibrations and the heartbeat and fill the heart with like prayers for peace. What an absolute, and I find myself teaching her gospel in a shop for 42 days. And people got it. I like spread her music, her story, her everything. And then the mayor, it was the mayor's inauguration ceremony in the Abbey, the Lady Chapel. And I asked the mayor, oh, could I by any chance put her on the high altar as a decoration? Like that place where you like, they shush you out if you even burn incense or anything. And I'm like, and she's like, yeah. And then she ended up on the high altar like this, with 2 oil lamps with 7 flames. Now around the corner in the Lady Chapel, there's an old kind of, oh, this is what it used to be like in here. And there's 2 oil lamps with 7 flames on this old painting. And to think that for the very first time, there's an icon of the Divine Feminine with 2 oil lamps with 7 flames on the high altar. See what I mean? This is like literally, and then after the mayor's ceremony was an hour. And I'm just like, we're obviously not leaving. And people came and they could feel the energy was palpable, like literally. And the security, instead of like, oh, I'm just like, we just leave, it's all like clear, she can stay here. And the security sat with me and was like, wow, this is so beautiful. People came after that, people came to the shop, they looked at her and they were like, oh, is she a copy of the original one from the Abbey? And I'm like, and that went on for like 42 days. And then after those 42 days, they had planted a new holy thorn. The new holy thorn was planted. And we did like ceremonies there, and it was all, and this is when I met this woman that sits there. Her name was like, I met her. She was told by the Holy Mother, like, oh, go in this shop, go to the Magdalene Chapel, and if you see it, you will know it. She came to the Magdalene Chapel, she saw it, and she knew. And that's how we kind of connected. She knew that like we've got work to do, and this is what we ended up doing. And then there was the Welcome Unity event in the town hall, where all the different spiritualities presented what they were doing. And there were the local Essenes. They've got a wattle church, and they had
that church?
Huh?
Where is it?
Somewhere in Glastonbury.
Yeah.
And they had the same sign. And I'm like, wow, and you've got a wattle church. I need to show you my wattle church. So I had him coming over, one of the local Essenes, completely dressed in white, to show him my wattle church. And I explained to him, look, this is your sign. You call it the Essene Temple of Light. In my sign, I've got like, in my shrine, in her shrine, I've got this, and that represented. So is this an Essene Temple of Light? And he said, no, this is Jesaja's Temple of Light. Jesaja representing the fully risen Christ. And I'm like, wow, that is quite a confirmation. Oh, and I forgot. So in this shop, one day, like, so people come in, meditate, and one of the guys is like, oh, I'm, you were like, basically, you were one of his apostles, and let me remove all those kind of thingies, like, just like, you need to step into your power. Don't ask the ascended masters for help. You tell the ascended masters where to go, because you are one of them, and they respect you for what you're doing here. I'm like, all right. And then he did like all those thingies, kind of removing the blockages and stuff. I'm like, wow, yeah, obviously. I'm like, I was with Christ, and he asked me to do his work, and the work is done. And do his work as in like preparing. So with those vibrations, well, this is how we anchor the light of Christ into the planetary grid, through music without words or song structure. And if you look at baby Jesus and all the angels around playing musical instruments, it's a flipping giveaway. And I haven't even shown you, like, so with this whole Elijah thing, the picture should come somewhere probably. No, it doesn't. I forgot a picture where the so there's Elijah Hill on in Jerusalem, or no, not Jerusalem, in Jordan. It's Elijah's Hill, where he was taken away with a chariot of fire. There's a baptism pool with the cave of St. John the Baptist, and I looked at it, and it's got the same walls like Ibiza rocks. And then just out of fun, I put like a picture of the walls of Ibiza rocks on top of that, and 3 of the rocks match. Like they're cut in half, but they match, as in like they look as if they're like one rock. It's like, so from that moment I knew, well, I am someone like Elijah, essentially. And then matey comes in the shop and goes like, oh, you're one of his apostles, your name was this and that, and like, step into your power. And I'm like, okay. And then after that, one of the local Essenes comes over and goes like, oh yeah, this is Jesaja's Temple of Light, Jesaja representing the fully risen Christ. And I'm like, oh, from an Essene's mouth. And then we anchored all of that in Merlin's cave, because the Essenes anchored the arrival of Christ consciousness first in Tintagel. And then we did a ceremony there, and look at, that's Merlin's cave. One of the biggest hearts. Stuff like, oh, what an absolute blessing of a quest. And then doing another thing, like being part of the official parades. Now, yeah, doing God's work basically. And so now this is a video. So I made connection with this woman in Switzerland, and then we did this heartbeat that started, where we listen to the heartbeat and we fill hearts of stone with rose petal prayers for peace. That started at, and like that, we create a pacemaker all around the earth. Like, it doesn't matter how, but like at that moment it was that heartbeat. So I did a ceremony in Geneva, at the United Nations headquarters, because I was told to. And this whole quest to Geneva, with what, like, the hearts that we did. So now that's another video. It's like 3 minutes, what happened before and in and around Geneva, and the stuff that we anchored with those heartbeats there. Holy Flames, Our Lady, at the headquarters of the United Nations. nature. I am a reincarnated apostle. Jesus told me to do his work, and the work is done, and it is time to be recognized. Thank you, Mikey. Thank you, Mary. Thank you. And like just like Anka saying it, putting it out there. And then came the 3-year anniversary of like having when I was told to put the tabernacle up, and we did a ceremony in the tower. And that's like it's only short. It's like a minute. It'll be a little bit like yakety 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 yak, but I explain like how basically the black magic of the crown. No more black magic. Imagine witch fighting. This black magic witch fighting initiated so much suffering, so much horrible realization, concentration, slave trade. So with this whole thing, because they would all know me. And then, so in this kind of while doing this ceremony in there for the 3-year anniversary, I saw a trunk outside, and I'm like, huh? That looks familiar. So basically, remember how the church was stolen, and then the like even the big hawthorn trunk was gone.
Oh yeah.
And then the big hawthorn trunk appeared again for Easter on Easter Sunday 2021. It was in the tower. Don't know how it got there, as if by magic. And I put some ribbons on it and thought it's like really sacred. And then it was gone, and I'm like, well, they burned it because like the Scousers, like 1st of May, all those kind of hundreds of people around. For the 3-year anniversary, when I was like, oh, and this is how we break the spell of war. And I even say, like when I play drums, I'm like, and this is how we anchor the light of Christ into the planetary grid. I film, And the way how the camera is, the windows of the tower are blinking, like literally. So I, for the first time that I'm like, oh, and I do this in the light of Christ, in the name of Christ. And then the windows of the tower blink in the recordings. I haven't got that video here, there's so many. So basically I find this trunk in the tower and I'm like, nah, this couldn't possibly. Because how? After 3 years? But it did. It showed up there 3 times, and this time I took it home. I compared them. I compared the pictures and everything. The center pillar of the tabernacle showed up there for the 3-year anniversary without me even bringing it up there. After 3 years, for a piece of that around the tower to survive around that hill, firewood, it's impossible. Impossible. And then went back to see my partner in Switzerland. She gave me like a rebirthing session in one of those pools. On the way there, I saw the sinkhole covers, and they reminded me of the oil lamp, of the symmetrics. And then she goes like, oh yeah, you've got another hour? Go over there on the other side of the road, that building there, on the other side of the valley. Go and have a look there. It's the Goetheanum. And I'm like, huh? What's that? Went to the Goetheanum, and it turns out that the Goetheanum, no, that's not the Goetheanum, that was the day after that. And it turns out that it's Steiner's kind of, it's where Steiner, like Steiner's church, so to say. And I went there, and everybody that I talked to, they're like, oh yeah, Archangel Michael, he runs the show. Yeah, Christ Pulse. We know about that. Steiner's talking about that. We're reading all about it. Yeah, you're an initiate. And I'm like, huh? Everybody speaks my language? They know exactly what the St. Michael's Tower is. Wow, I need to look into that more. And I did. But like first, the next day after that, we did another ceremony at the United Nations headquarters, and it turned out to be the 2-year anniversary of the war in the Ukraine. And there was like a massive demonstration there. And the heartbeat started at like 2:30 or something. And to light the flames, like, so that's the peace monument opposite, with all the roses, and like to fill the heart with rose petal prayers for peace. The moment that the heartbeat started, the demonstration moved. They walked away. For me, we were right behind the police, and I lit that oil lamp with like, it could have been a Molotov cocktail. I'm like, is anyone, we had like a protective cloth over us. This woman, like in her 60s, she said that in all her life she went through so many spiritual things, but she never experienced anything as real as what we just did. And that touched me like loads. Oh no, did I press the wrong thing? I know. And that's kind of the crystal with all the magic in front of the... And then I came back in the tower for the 3-year anniversary. The bag that I always transported the plants had caught fire, the flames had caught fire. So I was given the money to buy a chalice for her. And on the way to light the chalice, my friend, like David Hatfield, he posted this picture of the Holy Thorn because he knew I was going there. And then this is where this chalice is now being lit for the very first time. I think her name was Gloria as well. This woman showed up, but I had people, I had like somebody in Egypt playing the heartbeat, in Yugoslavia, in Switzerland, in Spain, like loads of people tuning in, like at the same heartbeat at that moment when I lit her chalice for the very first time. And then after that ceremony, it was pure magic, alchemy. And then after that, I packed everything together, put it down, and like, I turned around and there was this rainbow. The pictures are only taken like, the first 3 minutes I was on my knee. I was on my knees in front of the Holy Thorn. This pillar it was like, it wasn't a rainbow, it was a rain pillar.
It's very high.
It was like a pillar. I could feel the droplets that made this pillar on my skin,
Okay, yes.
and with it magnified St. John's Tower as if it was like 20, 30 meters away.
Yeah.
I was on my knees. I'm like, oh my God. And I was like, oh, this is what Joseph Armathea felt like when he was told to build that church. It was one of those moments, and for me it was like, wow, this is Bhumi number 10, like when the Dharma rains down on the whole of humanity. And somewhere in the Bible, so it was literally a rainbow after the floods. So here are the floods still, and there's a rainbow. There is something, I forgot about what it is, but it's something. So at that moment then, with this is the church, the roundhouse. It needed a new roof, and so a replica of the Church of Joseph Armathea. And I have like this chalice, and I connected with the flames, and it from that moment it got like really deep. There was another comet, Pons Brooks, coming in, and like there is also something with like Pons Perillis, which is like a dangerous bridge. And there were a few synchronicities which I couldn't bring in the talk, because this is from now on, it gets a little bit like more bigger steps, because I couldn't fill in all because from that moment on, my life went absolutely, it was like somebody put in the turbo kind of thingy in the whole evolution of that. And this is the whole connecting with anthroposophy, with like Steiner. But first came the connection with the Grail. So how I realized that her chalice is my Grail. So the Holy Mother, after like being in service, she was like at that moment, and yep, this is the Grail. And then with all the synchronicities that went on together, and it's not just me, the people that followed those synchronicities. There were 3 women in particular, like, who I called them my Grail maidens. My like partner from Switzerland was here, and other like Sarah and Catherine, and they all followed my story. They followed all the details of what I've been doing, and I'm like, look guys, this is the Grail. And through again other synchronicities, I ended up in St. John's Church talking to Father Kieran, and I asked him, oh look, could you light my flames with the flames of Christ on Holy Saturday after the ceremony, maybe? He's like, yay, no problem. Bring it in. So I went there with 3 Grail maidens, like women who knew that this represents the Grail, to light this Grail with the flames of Christ in St. John's Church on the 30th of March. Quite a big thing. Especially they lit the fire outside the back door. They basically lit the fire 3 meters away from the statue where my thing fits like a key. It was a whole ceremony, like as ceremonial as it gets. And we even like, he said, oh, we do something very unusual today. We do 3 hallelujahs, and then we make as much noise as we can. And me and the Grail maidens, we just look at each other and we were like, wow, really?
Yeah.
So we did 3 hallelujahs, and then we did 3 lions' roars in there, and then lit the flames of the Grail with the flames of Christ. And turns out that this day was also the 99-year anniversary of Steiner's death, of Rudolf Steiner's death.
Oh, wow.
And then turns out that Steiner actually, he said that once anthroposophy has ripened in combination with the Michael pulse, after 3 times 33 years, it should be ready to be presented to the world. And I'm like, wow, this is bonkers, what a coincidence. And then all these kind of Steiner thingies started to kind of float in. Which one is that? Is that a video? Sophia, wisdom of God. Lucifer has slain her, and on the wings of the worldwide forces carried her hence into cosmic space. Christ's will, working in man, shall rest from Lucifer, and on the boats of spirit knowledge call to new life in souls of man. Isis Sophia, wisdom of God. Oh no, this is kind of one of his poems. But it was at the wrong place. Now this is more related to the Grail. Now let's quickly switch back to the Grail. Here is David Hatfield. He's like the Mr. Grail kind of. Oh, I wrote the book. And so in the book that he wrote at the same time while I was on my vision quest, it's a wee bit prophetic, because I keep doing those things and he tells me like, oh look, it's written here in my book. Oh look, it's written here in my book. Oh yeah, look, that's written here. Oh yeah, that's written there. So I lived out the things that he wrote in my book at the same time, like activating the Glastonbury Zodiac and everything. It's like a whole story behind it. So I'm gonna turn the speakers off, because there's too much bass maybe, and I don't want to keep people awake. But like, so basically, there he talks about like how this happened, that this is actually the Grail. So he also goes like, actually, hang on.
For me, it's like, if you work it through a mythos, it's like the whole of my psycho kind of coding to sort of come through, you know, King Arthur and the Grail and that whole thing, which is just sort of means you'll start working in a kind of frame of mind that sees everything through that kind of perspective. And yeah, it's extraordinary really how this happened.
Pompala's Bridge.
It's just,
Grail.
you know, I mean, you couldn't make it up, but we have made it up in a strange way. It's kind of, we have actually made the reality, so that is it.
So true. So basically, yeah, and that's what this kind of represents. Now, there was at a certain point, I found a speech of Steiner where he talks about the reappearance of Christ in the etheric, and in this speech he also talks about like how the comets have a meaning and how every little detail counts. And this speech was given in Hanover on the 10th of May 100 years ago, and I'm like, oh my God, my mother and her mother and her mother, they were all born in Hanover. So in theory, my grandmother could have been at that speech at her mother's arms, together with all the beautiful words that he found for what I am doing, like, oh, reappearance of Christ in the etheric, the solar flares, all of that stuff. And I'm like, wow. So I went up the tower and did a proper ceremony. I told people like, look, it's all like, I call it anchoring the light of Christ in the planetary grid. Steiner, he calls it the reappearance of Christ in the etheric, and it's happening right now and tonight. We anchor that, da. So it all turned like into a proper ceremony. And after 2 tracks in, a woman, she comes up to me and she says like, oh, maybe you were him. And I'm like, well, meh, hang on. So I built a temple of stone, ein steinerner Tempel. I've got a soundtrack made of created by rocks, stone, ein steinerner Soundtrack. I've got hearts of stone, steinerne Herzen. Well, it kind of would make sense. And then just carried on with the evening. And then the aurora came. The aurora borealis, like I call all the lights and everything. Like, what? And then after like 5 hours, I must have been in the tower. Aurora borealis gone, da 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 da. And then I'm leaving, and this woman, she comes up and she says, actually, I just need to let you know, I've got the gift of seeing people's past lives, and you definitely were him. I'm like, okay, well, I've got my flight booked already. Like, I'm just gonna do a heartbeat at his grave, like at the Goetheanum, and we'll see. And when I arrived at the Goetheanum, with my oil lamp, I haven't got the pictures. I could either look for the pictures. I'm just going to talk you through.
Yeah, talk it through.
Like so on his gravestone, he's got a Rosicrucian cross with like 7 rubies, and it's made from red granite, and it's not like it's the ashes are sprinkled there. And it's from red granite, and it's red granite so that the rubies shine when they get wet. I look at my oil lamp and I look at that and I see it's got exactly the same. So I put my oil lamp upside down on it, and every single one of the wicks touched one of the rubies. And I'm like, huh? Bonkers. And then I put the lamp in front, light everything. As the heartbeat starts, something fell in. I thought it was a leaf, but it was a needle tree. So it was like a piece of bark from the tree fell right into the oil lamp as the heartbeat starts. And then the next day, one of my Grail maidens, she calls me and she's like, "What was that thing with your tooth in Ireland?" Because I lost the tooth yesterday and it didn't hurt in a place called Ash. And I'm like, what? So, because like, remember when I lost my tooth in Ireland and it didn't hurt? And then on the day where I stand on the ashes of my previous lives, one of the Grail maidens loses her tooth in a place called Ash.
Brilliant.
I was like, are you flipping joking? And for me, it felt like, okay, I have arrived here. And then the next day, remember this guy that gave me the 007 silver bar?
Oh, yeah.
Like confirming my mission for the Divine Feminine. He passed away the next day. Cancer, headache, hospital, gone the next day. And I'm like, what? The timing. And like, so when people like that pass away, they take all the information, everything that they lived gets plugged into the one. And for this kind of to get plugged into the one on the day when I accomplished my mission to like find this kind of was quite intense. And then so with this whole Grail thing, I've been given like talks about the Grail. And in here, and there was Harry was there, like a little bit an older guy, and when he hugged me, like after that talk about the Grail that I gave, we could both feel the spark, and I'm like, wow, this is divine truth shared, heart to heart. And then so the day after that Louis had passed away, I shared the talk about the Grail with an anthroposophist in Switzerland, like somebody who read Steiner's books, translated them for the last 30 years as his job. And I shared my kind of, the Grail talk, all of this kind of Steiner stuff with him. And on that very day, like this guy with the pulse, he passed away. So there's 2 people who passed away at very significant times when kind of the very significant knowledge that they kind of had, the very significant impact that they had, as all of this, for them to pass away at these moments was very profound, very profound. And there was the comet Pons Brooks, and this was supposed to be closest to Earth on the 12th of June, I do believe, or 2nd of June, not 100% sure. But both of those people said that they would be there. So we did the ceremony. Like, if you're doing a ceremony and you know that 12 people are going to come, and out of those 12, 2 pass away, as it's like Pons Brooks building the bridge between everything. So we had this appointment for this time, and they were up there and we were down here, and they were like guiding the forces down. This was very profound. And then came D-Day, and I told people, like, on D-Day celebrations we stood in a circle with all the kind of different kind of spiritualities of Glastonbury, and I told them, look guys, all of this has been like an anthroposophical like field experiment. She is Anthroposophia. I told them, look, like, she is Anthroposophia. That's what she presented herself to me. And I'm like, how am I going to explain people that you are Anthro? She's like, no, just like, come on. I'm like, look guys, she's Anthroposophia, and Anthroposophia, the name itself, stands for the relationship of humanity with the divine feminine wisdom. And I'm like, wow, obviously. And then I made this title, like oh, the book that I'm going to write is going to be Anthroposophia and the Holy Grail, because that's what it's all about. And then I made myself like a little card, because I also wanted to have it as a book cover. And on this card it said Anthroposophia and the Holy Grail, the relationship of humanity and the divine feminine wisdom restored. That was on the card, my first business card after all those years. I take those cards in the tower to anchor the energies of that. And there's a woman, like Spanish speaking guy, one woman dressed in white, like, and she asked me to play with their ceremony, and I did. Eyes rolled up all the way, like 15 minutes, next level. She was gone. And straight I give them all like my cards, because like, oh, it's all about Anthroposophia and the Holy Grail. Then they left. Immediately afterwards, a woman of a group of doulas comes in, all dressed in black. The same thing happens, and I'm like, oh my goodness. I gave them the cards, and I'm like, guys, do you have any idea who that group before you was? Because like, it was absolutely bonkers. And she goes like, oh yeah, she's a really well-known medium from Mexico, and she's channeling Sophia. And I'm like, really? Did you see what it says on the card? Anthroposophia and the Holy Grail. She's like, yes, I saw that, and my name is Grail. And huh? What? So I'm writing all these things down, and then I'm like, okay, so Anthroposophia and the Holy Grail. It was there and then that so because I've never got anything, I've got nothing. I don't know where the next money is going to come. Like, but when I was in Switzerland the last time, that woman that I had met there, like, who said like she never experienced anything like it, she was like, I would really like to support you. May I give you something? Like, I can't really claim it because my father worked for it, but I've got it and it's not doing anything, and I'd rather like give you some of that. And I'm like, yes, of course you may. And she gave me an envelope with enough in it so that I could buy myself a brand new MacBook Pro. So without that, none of any of like this would have kind of. But it was like that moment, and then I'm like, wow, okay, now I've got this for the next step. And then I made this keynote presentation, and for the first time, like my first attempt of making a keynote presentation, And then things kind of sped up again. It was bonkers. So Anthropo, Sophia and the Holy Grail, a real-life fairy tale of faith, hope and angelic guidance to bring peace on earth. Following in the footsteps of Elijah, St. John the Baptist, Rudolf Steiner and many others that dedicated their lives to the light of Christ in service of the Divine Mother and the Divine Father. The Bible speaks of 7 different covenants from Genesis to Revelation. Within each covenant are 4 elements: the promises, the terms, the blood, and the seal. The promise is peace on earth. The term, 7,000 pacemakers of St. Michael's Tower vibrations in churches, mosques, and synagogues will create one peacemaker. The blood. So all the covenants come with blood. On day 1, when I played, blood on the drum skin. 1 year anniversary, blood together with like that woman that had the same facial injuries like me, and then anchoring all of that in St. Michael's Mount in Cornwall. I was bitten by a crystal skull and I shed this blood again in Merlin's cave. So that's the blood of this covenant. And then the seal, because that's the whole thing. This is also called the Messianic Seal of Jerusalem, and it is the first sign of Christianity. So the Essenes who were waiting for Jesus to arrive, they meditated with that, and it's through that honeycomb shape and the comets, Bethlehem, how they found baby Jesus and connected and everything, like duns, duns, duns. So I write all this down before it was Magdalene's feast day again, I do believe. And then, oh yeah, there's the, remember I told you about the baptism pool? That's the baptism pool. Elijah, my wall, look at that, that, and that. You see how those stones are one? Can you?
Yeah.
And I didn't look for that. I just popped it there, and it looked like that. And I'm like, okay. That's kind of the women dancing in the confirmation. When I told you about the woman, the Sophia woman, that was that. But this. So I finished like writing about the covenant, the kind of keynote presentation, and then the next day there's another flipping crop circle that showed up. Huh?
Good one. That's a very good crop circle.
So there was this, that's not the one timing, but how this matches up with those yet again. It's not the most obvious one. I was actually talking about the one, there was another crop circle that showed up the morning after I had written about the covenant, and it was with 2 7-pointed stars inside of each other. Like, and that kind of looked like the bottom 2 of the 7 oil lamps, like on top of each other, bigger and smaller, the 7 on the day after that, again in combination with like vibrations and everything. So these are anthroposophical crop circle confirmations. And then to come back to this poem, oh nice. So these are the rubies on the grave of Steiner. I think I got the rubies. That's my sign. Can you see how that's pretty much the same? That was Rudolf Steiner's pendant, the 7 roses. And that's how the other lamp matches. So the lamp that Father Kieran lit in St. John's First for the very first time was the one that I took to Steiner's grave. And that's the lamp that matches all the 7 rubies of his Rosicrucian cross on the gravestone. And that's the stuff, like that's the one that showed up after I had written about the covenant and everything. And then I looked. So after I've seen, so I had just like finished writing about the covenant, and then I went to bed. The next morning, this crop circle was there, with those 2 kind of 7-pointed stars inside each other. And the only picture that I had of those from top in my photo album was this one. And then I looked to the right of it, and I find that. So for me, in the book that I'm living, like this was like a confirmation for not only the covenant, like because I was just talking about the Messianic seal, and then that's when I stopped. Then the 2 crop circles show up, like that crop circle shows up with the 2 7-pointed oil lamps on top of each other. And then in combination with that, that means that my whole chariot of fire, all 3 oil lamps have been represented by crop circles. Like, and then you should have a look what the people write about those crop circles with like Archangel Michael and all those stuff, what they interpret in it. It's like, and oh yeah, and so let's make this the last video, okay? That's at the end of this, again talking with David Hatfield, author of the book about the it's done story tale, like fairy tale finish.
We had to go through everything we went through in the last years, decades, to come to the realization, wait, this is what we've got. And it could only happen right now because everything is in place.
And everyone, and the world is, the consciousness is not, as much as most people don't think the planet is stuck in a rut, I don't think so. I think everything that's happened is kind of slowly pulling people out, so they're ready for acceptance of this fairy tale.
Yeah.
Because it's a much better future with the fairy tale than without. You know, it kind of, ticks all the boxes. And Catherine Maltwood said, you know, eventually the Star Temple will be the thing that will actually raise the consciousness of the planet.
And that's what this is all about.
It is.
Like, and then, like, Anthroposophia and the Holy Grail, Glastonbury Grail, light of the world.
Exactly.
Like, it's predicted in your book, and it's executed in the next book that we've both been part of, living it.
Indeed.
And what an absolute blessing, David, for what we are about to receive. May the love make us
Yes.
truly thankful.
Just, you know, the thing is we have to keep going with it because it isn't done yet. It's just winding up. It will be done very soon.
Yeah, and it's just like we need to keep trusting the confirmations that we receive.
I mean,
And just keep going. Everything is happening in divine timing.
we'll all be completely mind blown when it actually happens.
Yeah.
Because we don't actually know the full outcome of how this is going to happen. But my gut feeling is that what's playing out at the moment, like the World War III fake fucking scenario, which is designed to pull everybody out of the fucking normie situation. Oh, fucking hell. Don't believe it, you know. So everyone's got to be so scared and frightened and suddenly realize It's the only way it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because the priests of the Medes have gone.
And it's only with the realization of what's going on that the change is going to happen.
Exactly.
And this is all to do with the wisdom of God, Sophia, the divine feminine. This is what this represents.
It's absolutely.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
It's magic, and it is kind of irrefutable, and like the finale is not even in that. You haven't seen like of the last I don't know, like since February. It's very lückenhaft, so to say. The stuff so Rudolf Steiner, the wisdom, Isis Sophia, wisdom of God, yeah, that Lucifer has slain her and taken her into space. Then I looked at my vision quest from 20 years ago through the eyes of Isis, and I saw the wasp scepter, and I saw all these different things. And which made it so obvious that yes, this is what happened there. And me playing in a club called Lucifer, me playing in a club called Space, me eating the egg of Isis, essentially embodying the divine feminine to live out the poem that this spirit, like it was Steiner, he was the spirit that walked in after my accident. He made me do all those things. All this like it was, and this was the first kind of. This was literally the first thing that he, and the first and most obvious. And he was a wooden sculpture. He was like, and to find that then in Kiev, it's beyond. It's literally beyond. And then in the first, so when Rudolf Steiner presented Anthroposophy to the public for the first time, in the first speech, he says that Anthroposophia will present herself to the enlightened man as an object. And then I look back to the moment of my enlightenment, and there she was, as an object. How he at his beginning talked about my beginning. It's the I bake your powder, and then how I end up working in space and in Lucifer, embodying the egg of Isis, and then going on this quest, and then like without Steiner. So basically, it's all about. So Parsifal, he's the fool. He's got no idea what he's doing, who he is, until he finds the Grail. And it was only after I found like her chalice is my Grail in service of the divine feminine, until she went like, okay, now have my chalice. And then rainbow, St. John, oh, light it there, oh, 99-year anniversary of Rudolf Steiner's death. Oh, really? Did he say 3 times 33 years? Yes, he did. Together with the Michael Pulse. Oh, Michael Pulse. Obviously. Oh, it's only like, oh, how would we translate the Michael Pulse into 3D in our times? Oh, maybe with a pulse that's created by the Michael's Tower vibrations, under guidance by Archangel Michael, and then a heartbeat, Michael Pulse. Steiner talks about the Michael Pulse in so many different books. It's so flipping, like, it's obvious. Does it make sense to you guys?
Yeah, it does.
Yes, too.
It's
It's not,
huh?
yeah, it's es ist einfach die Bestätigung, dass du den richtigen Weg
Yeah,
gehabt hast. Ne?
yeah.
Ja.
And essentially all of this is only like a promotion. All my life is only a promotion for this pacemaker. That people realize, oh, this is more than just a weirdo's idea. This is more than, actually, this is the real thing. This is a gift that we've been given. And I'm not like, Messianic Seal of Jerusalem, this is also called the Star of Hope. The moment when the Jews and the Gentiles will stand before God as one. And this storyline that I lived, even the clerics can't say like, oh no, this is not it. This is for the clerics, the same people who are telling in Israel like, oh, bomb everything together. The same people are the ones who can't and shan't and won't ignore this truth. That's why they hurry up a lot right now, because they know it's coming. They just didn't know it's coming in the New Jerusalem and not in the old one. Isaiah's Temple of Light, and that's like, these are my 3 Grail Maidens. When this and the church and all those things, it's so flipping, yeah, blessed, humbled, thankful. And all it needs is like, who are the people that tell those stories? All it needs is to be plugged in. Like, oh yeah, look, let's plug this story in. And like the same thing like how if you follow all of this with an open heart, I think it does something to you, because it gives me hope. And it might give you hope as well. Because it's like, it's so obvious that there is a God. There is a higher thing working all these things out. And like the final thing, like literally, what happened, so last weekend I was supposed to give that talk, yeah? But I couldn't, and because I met my partner from Atlantis.
Yeah.
You remember
Yeah, I've forgotten.
you remember the egg that I received up on the tour? First I ate the egg, and then up on the tour, when I put my church up there, I received an egg that I later planted in the top of the roof. You might remember that. I put that egg that I received up there in the top of the roof of the church. And so last Sunday, when I met her from Atlantis, the light went out and I came back in there. They had a cauldron of fire on the floor with loads of crystals and like stuff in it. And a group wasn't there yet, and she told me like, look, take what you need from here. There's one thing from here that you need. Take this one thing you need. It's like for everybody's gonna pick one. I want you to pick yours first. The same eye, the same egg, the same color, like the one I received up there. It's like excellent. Hilarious.
Thank you.
Thank you very much
Thank you.
No, thank you.
for inviting us. I wasn't sure if I could follow all your words, but it was sort of easy for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. And yeah, the one thing that I'm really bad is like, how can I charge for anything like that? But if anyone like feels inspired, like, oh, I'd like to support that kind of, this is literally what I'm depending on. I've got no social kind of I plugged myself out of the matrix completely. So all I've got, I'm being given to do the work that I do. Magic.
Okay, thank you.
Anyway, I'm gonna plug my things together and we'll see you later. Are we gonna do you have my number? Can I give you my? Oh no, I'm connected on Facebook anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
also
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
thank you very much.
Magic.
Sharing this process.
It's done. The sharing is done, one heart at a time, and it will go out. And you never know. You might know, because it's like